Everybody in Greenville is waiting for the perfect time to buy, but here's the uncomfortable truth. That perfect time you're waiting for might already be costing you money every single month. I'm going to put the actual Greenville numbers on the screen, walk you through exactly what they mean, and by the end, you'll know for your situation whether you should buy now or wait. No hype, no pressure. Let's go. What's going on, guys? My name is Michael Turner. I sell real estate here in Greenville, South Carolina. Quick promise before we start. I'm not here to talk you into anything. If the smart move for you is to wait, I'll tell you to wait on camera. My whole goal with this channel is to give you the real numbers and the honest trade-offs so you can make the call. Here's everything we're going to cover today. Where the Greenville market actually sits right now and the real stats, why demand here has stayed so steady while other markets across the country wobble, the true cost of waiting where the math actually worked out, the truth about rates, down payments, and the hidden costs nobody warns you about, renting versus buying, the comparison that actually matters, exactly who should wait, who's ready now, and the first 3 steps to make. Grab a coffee. This is a good one. Let's get into it. The psychology of waiting. First, let's talk about why almost everybody freezes. The question I hear more than any other is some version of, should I buy now or wait for prices to drop and the rates to come down? And honestly, it's a smart instinct. Nobody wants to buy at the top. Nobody wants to lock a rate and watch it fall the next month. That fear is completely rational. But here's the trap. Waiting for perfect feels safe, but it's actually a decision too. It just doesn't feel like one. Every month you wait, you're making a bet that the future will be cheaper. Sometimes that bet pays off. A lot of the time, it doesn't. The people who have been waiting for the crash in Greenville for the past several years, most of them are now priced out of homes they could have easily bought back then. So instead of guessing, let's replace the fear with numbers. That's the only thing that actually matters. Where the Greenville market sits today. Let's start with reality. Here are the numbers from May of 2026 right here in Greenville, South Carolina. The median sales price, $392,000. That's your anchor number, and it tells a good story. Right around $392,000 gets you a real solid home here. Not a fixer, not a compromise. For anybody moving in from a bigger, pricier market, that number alone is why the upstate keeps showing up on people's radar. You still get genuine value for your money in Greenville. The median days on market is around 19 days. That's pretty fast. A well-priced home here is going under contract in under 3 weeks. What that means for you as a buyer, you don't necessarily get to sit on a decision for a month and think about it. The good homes move. If you're not pre-approved and ready, you'll watch the right one go to someone who was. Inventory sits around 3.7 months of supply. This is the number that tells us what kind of market we're in. The rule of thumb, under 4 months is a seller's market, 4 to 6 is balanced, and anything above 6 tips towards buyers. At 3.7 months, Greenville is just into seller market territory, but barely. And that's not factoring in the demand of buyers at the moment or overall affordability and interest rates. So there's more than just inventory. And here's the honest read. This is a mild seller's market, not the insane frenzy of a couple years ago where you had to waive everything and offer 50 grand above asking sight unseen. Sellers have a slight edge. Inventory is a little tight, but it's close enough to balance that a prepared buyer still has room to make a smart, reasonable offer. You're not walking into a bidding war bloodbath. You're walking into a market that rewards being ready. Year over year price change is essentially flat. Here's the one that surprises people. A year ago, the median was $390,000. Today, it's about $392,000. That's barely up 0.5%, which is essentially, again, flat. After years of prices climbing, Greenville has leveled off, and I want to be really clear about what that does and doesn't mean. It does not mean a crash is coming. Flat is not falling, and it does not mean prices are about to take off again either. It means the market is catching its breath. For a buyer, this is arguably the friendliest setup you're going to see. You're not chasing a price that's running away from you anymore, but you're also not going to be rewarded for sitting on the sidelines waiting for a discount that the data says is not coming. Today's 30-year fixed rate is around 6.6%, and rates are the piece everyone fixates on. 6.6 is where we are. In a minute, I'm going to show you exactly what that does to a real monthly payment and why it matters a lot less than people think. So here's the bottom line on today's market. Stable prices, fast 19-day sales, and a tight 3.7 month of supply. That is not a market that's crashing. If anything, sellers have a slight edge, but it's not overheating either. It's steady with a mild lean towards sellers. And steady is exactly the environment where a prepared buyer does well, because the decision comes down to your situation, not to timing some dramatic swing that is not coming. Why Greenville's demand stays steady. Now, why does this matter more in Greenville than in other places because our demand isn't a fluke. It's structural. Three things keep people moving here. One, you have relocation. People are leaving expensive, crowded metros and landing in the upstate. They get more house, lower cost of living, and a downtown that punches way above its weight. Every one of those buyers is competition for inventory. The second reason, the lifestyle actually delivers. Falls Park, Liberty Bridge, the food scene, the Swamp Rabbit Trail, real four-season weather without brutal extremes. People don't just move here for a job, they move here and then stay because of the quality of life. The third reason, the economy is diversified. We're not a one-industry town. We've got manufacturing, healthcare, automotive, a growing small business base that keeps incomes and housing demand stable, even when the national headlines get scary. So when people ask me if Greenville's due for a crash, my honest answer is the fundamentals here are about as solid as you'll find. And the flat prices we just talked about actually prove the point. Even after a huge run-up, the market didn't give it back. It's steady. A market with steady in-migration and limited supply doesn't usually fall apart. The true cost of waiting. Okay, here's the part almost nobody actually runs. What does waiting cost you? Now, this used to be an easy argument when prices were jumping 10, 15% a year. Waiting was obviously expensive, but prices are pretty flat now. So let me make the honest version of this case using today's real numbers and assuming the absolute best case scenario for the person who wants to wait. Let's take a home right at our median, $392,293. Put 5% down. That's a loan of about $372,700. At today's rate of 6.6%, your principal and interest is about $2,380 a month. Now, let's say you wait a year. And let's be generous to the waiting case. Let's assume two things break in your favor. Prices stay flat, still at about $392,000, and rates actually drop, say down to 6.1%, half a point better. In that best case, your payment a year from now would be about $2,258 a month. So you'd save about $122 a month, or roughly $1,460 over a year. That's real money. That's the win the waiter is hoping for. But here's what that year of waiting actually costs you. First, rent. While you wait, you're paying rent. Say that's about $1,500 a month. That's $18,000 over the year, and 100% of it is gone. It builds zero equity for you. Second, the equity you didn't build, if you'd bought now in just the first year of that mortgage, you'd pay around $4,090 in principal. That's $4,000 of your own money going into your own pocket instead of your landlord's. So let's add it up. By waiting, you save about $1,460 on the rate, but you spend $18,000 on rent and miss out on $4,000 in equity. That's over $22K out the door. The net result, even in the best case scenario for waiting, flat prices and a lower rate, you come out roughly $20,000 behind by waiting a year. And that's the good case for waiting. If prices tick up even slightly or rates don't drop, it's worse. That's the math nobody runs. The rate obsession. Let's stay on rates for a second because this is where people get the most stuck. Everyone treats the interest rate like it's permanent. It's not. The rate you start with is almost never the rate you keep. Over the life of a loan, most people refinance at least once, sometimes more. So when you let a rate scare you out of the market entirely, you're letting a temporary number block a permanent asset. And here's the key insight from the math we just did. Notice that even a half-point drop in rate only moved the payment around $120 a month. The rate matters, but it's not the giant lever people treat it as. The bigger costs of waiting were the rent and the lost equity, not the rate. This is the whole idea behind marry the house, date the rate. If rates fall after you buy, you refinance and your payment drops. Keep the house and you get the better rate. If you wait for the rate instead, you're paying rent the whole time and building nothing. Now, I'm not saying you ignore the rate. You should never buy a payment that you cannot comfortably carry. I'm saying don't let it be the whole decision. The 20% down myth. Next myth, and this one keeps more people renting than almost anything else. I need 20% down. You don't. Notice the example I just walked through used 5% down, not 20. Let me lay out the real options. Conventional loans can go as low as 3% down. FHA is 3.5% down, which is built for buyers with smaller savings or thinner credit. VA and USDA can be 0% down if you qualify. And a lot of people around the upstate qualify for USDA without realizing it because of how the eligible area map works just outside the city. Yes, putting less down usually means mortgage insurance for a while. And I'll always walk you through that trade-off honestly. But think back to the waiting math. If you spend 3 or more years saving to hit 20%, that's 3 more years of rent, tens of thousands of dollars while you build nothing. On flat to rising prices, the 5% down purchase today often beats the 20% down purchase you can't make until years from now. The hidden costs nobody mentions. Now let me be the guy who tells you the full picture, because plenty of agents skip this part conveniently. Buying costs more than the down payment. Budget for closing costs, typically a few percent of the price. Sometimes you can get the seller to cover part of it. And in a balanced market like this one, that's a real negotiating lever. I do it for clients regularly. Inspection and appraisal. Money you spend before you close and worth every penny. Never skip the inspection to win a deal. Ever. Reserves. Lenders want to see a cushion left after closing, and honestly, so should you. Maintenance. Rule of thumb is about 1% of the home's value a year. Some years, it's nothing. Then a water heater goes. I'm telling you this so you walk in with eyes open and never get blindsided at the closing table. Rent versus buy, the real comparison. Let's hit the other side directly. Should you keep renting? Sometimes, yes. I'll get to who in a second, but here's the comparison that actually matters. And we already saw it in the math. When you rent, 100% of that check is gone every month. That was the $18,000 in our example. It builds someone else's equity, and rent climbs year after year, and you've got zero control over it. Now, when you own, part of every payment goes towards your equity. That was about $4,000 in year one alone, and it grows every year after. Your principal and interest are locked in with a fixed rate loan, so while renters watch their costs rise, your core payment stays put. Now, owning isn't free money. There's maintenance, the upfront costs, less flexibility to move fast. So this isn't renting is always dumb. It's understanding exactly what each one costs you, including the costs that don't show up on the monthly statement. Now, who should actually wait? All right, here's the honest part. Now, here's who I genuinely think should wait. If your income or job situation isn't stable right now, wait. A house ties you down. You want flexibility when things are uncertain. If you had zero savings cushion the day after closing, wait and build a buffer first. Remember those hidden costs. You don't want to drain everything and become house poor. If there's a real chance you'll move within 2 or 3 years, the transaction costs, closing costs of buying and selling that fast usually eat any gains, especially with prices flat, on top of the property taxes, the capital gains. If your credit needs work, a few months of cleanup can genuinely lower your rate, which is worth the wait. If that's you, there's zero shame in renting while you get set up. I'd far rather you wait and do it right than rush in and regret it. That's not me losing a client. That's me earning one for when you are ready down the road. Now, who's ready now? On the flip side, you're in a genuinely strong spot to buy if you're planning to stay put for at least a few years. Time in the home is what makes the math works. You've got steady income and a down payment ready, even 3 to 5%. Your credit's in decent shape or close, and you're tired of watching rent go up every year without nothing to show for it. For that buyer in this market, flat prices, tight supply with a slight seller's edge, waiting for perfect almost always just means paying a year of rent for a discount that is not coming. The numbers we ran say it plainly. Waiting costs about 20 grand, even in the best case. A note for people moving here. Quick one for the relocators. And there are a lot of you watching, I know. If you're moving to Greenville from a bigger, pricier city, do yourself a favor. Don't anchor yourself to your old market prices, and don't try to learn our neighborhoods from a map. Downtown and the West End live as one connected lifestyle zone. The surrounding areas each have their own feel and their own price story. This is exactly the stuff I help people sort out remotely all the time. What your budget actually gets you here, which areas fit your life, and how to make a strong offer when you can't fly in for every showing. Don't guess at it from 1,000 miles away. Your first 3 steps. So you've watched this whole thing and you're thinking, okay, I might actually be ready. Here's exactly what to do in order. Step 1, get pre-approved, not pre-qualified. Pre-approved, it tells your real number and makes your offer credible, which matters a lot when homes move in 19 days. I can connect you with a local lender that I trust. Step 2, get clear on your non-negotiables. Location, must-haves, your true comfortable monthly payment. Know these before you fall in love with a listing. Step 3, talk to someone who knows this market. That's the whole job. I'll run your exact numbers, pull real options, and tell you straight whether now is your moment or not. So is now a good time to buy in Greenville? The honest answer is, it depends on you and your situation, not the headlines. The market's steady, flat prices, tight supply, homes moving in under 3 weeks. That's a calm, fair environment for a prepared buyer. The data even shows that waiting in this market tends to cost more than it saves. If you want me to run these exact numbers for your situation, your budget, your timeline, and your goals, that's the most useful thing I do. And it costs you nothing. Send me a DM or book a quick call with the link below. If this helped, do me a favor and subscribe. I break down the Greenville market like this every single week, plus neighborhood tours and the listings worth watching. I'll see you in the next one.